Want to buy something very expensive but you don't have the money? No worries, just use your home as an ATM. Real estate is in big trouble globally. We are watching the slowdown in the US, Australia, and Canada, just to name a few. In Canada, it has become extremely normal to remove equity from the home and never make payments back towards it. In Australia, we've seen a market sliding further and further, which will result in mortgages underwater. In the US, sales have absolutely slowed from coast to coast, but the Fed will save the day, right? You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we are going to talk about one of my favorite topics, and I know it's one of yours as well, real estate. We're going to cover first Canada, then we'll look at the US, then Australia. I want to talk about many issues here and update you on something that I cover as often as I possibly can. So let's begin by taking a look at this. Canadians keep using their homes as ATMs even as the market swoons. Canadians are ramping up borrowing against their homes even as the market slumps, exposing the country's financial system to vulnerabilities. We've got a huge problem in Canada today. However, if you talk to basically anybody, whether that's an average individual, if it's a person within the financial system, or you look at the media, none of them seem to see a problem with taking equity out of the home and using it to buy other things. You can look at the comment section below, and there are constantly individuals talking about the benefits of taking equity out of the home. In no way is it a problem. Well, I happen to disagree. Home equity lines of credit, or HELOCs, reached a record $243 billion Canadian dollars. That's 11% of total household credit. It's the highest share since mid-2015. We're looking at a time in which people are in so much debt. I'm going to show you some screenshots from a report that I was looking through, and I found them to be very interesting, so hang on for a moment. But borrowing to fund everything from home renovations to car purchases has grown faster than residential mortgages since 2017. Think about this for 1 second here. You have the home equity line of credit, people pulling their money out. But again, it's a product for that financial company. They're using it to their advantage, of course. They're making money from it. Well, it's going even faster than residential mortgages. 2017 was the peak in Canada, and ever since then, it's been slowly persisting in the way that you wonder what's going to happen. There's a lot of questions happening today. Many pockets are starting to really slow down. Prices have fallen quite a bit. Depends on which area you're looking at specifically. The flexibility of HELOCs could increase financial system vulnerabilities. In the event of a correction, borrowers could find themselves with a debt load that exceeds the value of their home, which is often referred to as negative equity. That's very important, not just for Canada. We've seen this before in places like China, Hong Kong, and now they're talking about it in Australia quite often. I'll cover Australia in a moment, but let's look further into this article. HELOCs may lead Canadians to use their homes as ATMs, making it easier for them to borrow more than they can afford. In that one sentence, she has said so much. And this is what I'm talking about. People see it as an opportunity to use more money. It's more credit. It's like having a balance on your credit card. Hey, that's free money. Of course not, but that's the way people see it. And they've been spending and spending and spending. And they say it's to renovate their home, and so that's so beneficial and everything. I happen to disagree with that. There is no reason to pay your money into this mortgage if you're going to take it out. What's the point? Why are you doing that? Why are you going to use this product created by the financial industry? It's not there to benefit you. It's there specifically to put you further down the rabbit hole of debt. Outstanding HELOC balances reached $211 billion in 2016. There are about 3 3 million HELOC accounts in Canada with an average outstanding balance of $70,000. This deserves to be highlighted right here. $70,000. We're talking about a significant sum that is here for people to apparently buy a new car, they need to renovate their home, they want to go on vacation, and I'm sure much more examples of silliness can be found. Canada's debt-to-income ratio has risen to record levels in recent quarters, to levels surpassing those seen in the United States prior to the financial crisis. And what's so important to note is that this particular report they're referring to showed that 40% of consumers do not make regular payments towards their HELOC principal, and most consumers do not repay their HELOC in full until they sell their home. So they take the money out and they don't even pay it back until they absolutely have to. And it goes even further. It said that banks and other lenders are increasingly offering re-advanceable mortgages, which combine term mortgages with HELOCs and other credit products to consumers. Does that sound like everything's totally fine to you? Why in the world do we need to go this far into debt to have a place to live, to have four walls? We've got a problem, and it is not going to be fixed by every action that the governments have been doing. And that applies to Canada, of course, applies all around the world. They're only making matters worse. They have been so slow at increasing interest rates. Look at the embarrassment that has been created in the United States. What a joke. They even witnessed interest rates, mortgage rates specifically, falling down, and they couldn't get that to boost home sales. I'll show you that in just a second here. We know specifically that what the central banks have done is destroyed, absolutely destroyed the financial system. They can't get that back. This is the report right here from RBC that I'm going to show you some charts from. I looked through all of them. I found 3 good ones that I thought were interesting. Household debt to income ratio in Canada, credit market debt as a percentage of the household disposable income, and you have to look at this very carefully. I mean, 173.8. This percentage is impossible to pay back, but this is Canada as a whole. I've shown you these statistics before, but if you were to look at the most populous cities, Canada has Vancouver and Toronto, and that actually goes over 200% for Toronto, if you can believe it or not, and then it goes to nearly 250% for Vancouver. This is not sustainable. I mean, 173% is not sustainable. How in the world is 250 and 200 going to be something that doesn't end up in disaster? I can't think about it. It's just impossible. This has to break down at some point, and it's going to be very painful for a lot of regular people who didn't know what they were getting into. That's the whole point, is people are always complicit. It's the individuals, it's the advertisements on TV, it's those in the financial system, it's their friends and family. Everybody's pushing, get into more debt. It pushes the prices up higher, the bidding wars, and all the garbage that I've seen personally here. Household balance sheet, this is the percentage of disposable income. I mean, come on, this is crazy, going way over 1,000% in these cases here. Looking at the net worth as an example, 881, and what this tells me here is that this completely correlates with the values of people's homes. That's something that I don't think is really understood by most people. If you've been pulling out the equity of your home, then suddenly you don't have that value. Your net worth is not what you think it is. And just because you bought a Maserati doesn't make you more valuable in with your net worth, because as soon as you drive it off the lot, it is now half as valuable. Okay, so that's the way we're looking at this. And when I see it, that's kind of the way that most people are looking at the opposite in general, but that's usually the way it is. Debt service payments. Now, I might look at this a little different than some other people, but let's just get into it. Annual percentage change. The blue line is interest payments, and the golden line is principal payments. So that has declined to basically 0, okay, 0.6, and you can see that that has come down since the peak which perfectly correlates. 2017, we saw that, and ever since then, they've been falling. People are not paying back the principal on their properties. That's very clear. And then you have interest payments, and that has been rising. And the way that I like to look at this is that people can't pay down the principal. They've got their home equity line, they got their student debt, they got all this stuff, and quite frankly, they're only paying back the interest. That's the way I look at it anyway, although some analysts might want to propose it differently. This is the way I see it, not just with this, of course, with all the other statistics that I've seen. So now we're going to flip the page over to the US. I split this video into two parts. We're going to talk about the US, we're going to talk about Australia, so just click on the video and I'll see you there.